Picture this. You're coming into a room where a presenter is about to present. And you filter in the room with all the other audience members there. And as you filter into the room, you start to fill up all the chairs. Suddenly you think, why? Specifically, there are 3 whys that are coming into your mind. Right then. 3 whys that have to be answered. Now, you may not be aware of them, you may not be thinking about them, but they pop up nevertheless. But the strange thing is when you actually get into your presentation, when you're up there, you're the one on stage, you may not think of those whys as much. And yet they're just as important. Your audience is still wondering why. If you can't answer the whys, well, as you know, I've been an audience member, there are a lot of other things to do when you're in the audience than listen to the presenter. You can check on PDAs and iPads and iPods, put your earbuds in and just kind of check out and have a good time. No problem. But if you do the right thing, get those whys and answer those whys, then you can get your audience to tune in, pay attention, take their earbuds out of their ears, put their iPods, their iPads, their iPhones down, and really start focusing on you. Instead of focusing on their implements of mass distraction, focus on you and your speech if you answer those 3 whys. And the 3 whys are just very important. And the first one is kind of general. And it's something that maybe to you is obvious. So you don't really focus on it that much. But it's very important because the audience is wondering about that. Very much so. The second one tends to be overdone. Overdone so much that people just say, well, yeah, okay, great. But when they overdo it, many people overdo it the wrong way. And because they overdo it the wrong way, that why doesn't really get answered. It's like, okay, yeah, I get that, but why? Got to answer effectively and efficiently, or you don't get anywhere. Or you simply don't get anywhere, nothing ever happens. Now the third why, very important to answer. Because the third why is the only thing that's actually going to make anything happen. Quite often when you're speaking, you want to get something to happen. You're trying to get a goal to happen. Let's do something or think something. What do you want the audience to do, think, or feel? But if you don't answer that third why, nothing happens. Because it just doesn't work. Just doesn't work. So today you're going to find out about those 3 whys and why they're so important, why they're so key. Now once you start using them, you discover the power of those whys and why they work and why they keep working and why everything just kind of works with them. But if you don't discover them, then things tend to naturally fall apart. But this, again, the interesting thing is that when you go into a theater on your own, these whys are right there front and center. Somehow in your presentation, they just don't apply, or you don't think about them. And for that reason, a lot of really potentially good presentations aren't. And maybe you've experienced this. You sat through a presentation, you thought, oh, it seemed to be okay. I mean, it had all the different parts in it, but there's just something missing. I was expecting more. You thought that about a presentation? I was expecting more, but I just didn't get it. Don't know what it is, but there's something I wanted to know. That's what happens when those whys aren't in place. You get that feeling of emptiness, feeling there's just not enough there really to get you through. Once the whys are in place, you leave that presentation thinking, wow, that was interesting. I got something. I learned something from it. That was definitely something else. That's the importance of why. It's the importance of asking why. Once you ask why, you get that opportunity for your audience to really get engaged, really get interested, and put down the implements of mass distraction, start focusing on you in your presentation. And it begins with the first why. And the first why is something that you probably take for granted. You probably think, well, of course everybody knows what that is. You certainly know what that is. It's the thing that drives you, the things that motivate you. It should be obvious what that is. But it's not obvious to the audience. And when you were in the audience, it wasn't obvious to you. Challenges presenters to answer that first why and make sure it's really crystal clear about the answer to that why. This is why. And then people get it. They say, oh, okay, I get it. Now that's why. All right. That's fine. And the first why that your audience is asking, and the first question that needs to be answered about why is, why this? Why this? Why this subject? Why even bother talking about this subject in the first place? Why is this subject so interesting to you? Why does it matter so much to you? Why is it such a big deal? Why should I pay attention to this subject? What is there about this subject that I should know? Why this? That's the first question. First question the audience is asking themselves is, why this? Why this subject? Why should I pay attention to this? Now, as a presenter, probably this subject you're passionate, something you're excited about, something you're interested in. And maybe you've never thought about, why am I so excited about this? Why is this such a big deal? Figure that one out. Figure that one out. Because that's what the audience is wondering. Why is this such a big deal? And if you can't explain why it's such a big deal, they're not going to care. It's not going to matter to them. Once you explain why it is a big deal, then they get it. So, whole thing about why this, why study, this whole question about how to present, how to speak. Because, in my opinion, presentations are one of the most powerful things one person can do. They've got ideas and passions they're desperately trying to get across to someone. They have to get it across smoothly, effectively, and efficiently, or it's not going to get anywhere. It's not going to work. So in my case, why this? Why presentations? Why this subject about presentations? Because it gives you an opportunity to touch someone and move someone and get things going. And presentations are about the best way you can do that. You can make an effective presentation, you can make things happen. You can make things work. Done an effective presentation, things don't work. Have an effective presentation, things work. That's why this and why this subject. For me, for the subject of presentations. For you, something different. For you, there's a reason why you're studying this subject, why you're so passionate about it, why you're so excited about it, why it interests you, why it involves you, why you're thinking, yeah, that's what I want to talk about. That's the important thing. Make it clear to your audience. Make it absolutely crystal clear to your audience why this is so important to talk about. Why you're even bothering getting up there. Why this? Why this subject? Why should I take all the time that I've got and focus in on this thing? I mean, think about it. There are a lot of things your audience could do. I mentioned the iPad, the iPod, the iPhone. Those are all things. TV, if people watch it anymore. Computer, another thing. So many things people could be doing. Why should they focus on this? Why should they give their attention to this? Now, you may think it's obvious. Well, because it's a huge national problem and an issue going on. And maybe obvious to you, but it's not obvious to them. Why is it a big national crisis? Why is it a big national issue? Why is it something everyone should be involved with? Why is it something that your audience should be involved with? Answer that question. Why this? You're on your way to getting your audience involved with your subject. Once you answer the question, why this, you come to the second why. Your audience is thinking, okay, I get it. This is really important. Fantastic. I understand it now. You are right. This is a national crisis. This is a huge issue. This is something I need to get involved with. You got me. No question about it. I get it. It's really important to me. Why this? I understand now why this. But there's a second why that really kind of bothers me. And that's the thing. You can answer the question why this. If you don't answer the second why, your audience stops right there. Just stops. Stops dead. Nothing happens. But if you can answer that second why, then all of a sudden I say, okay, all right, you got me a little bit more. I'm a little more involved, a little more aware. And the second why they're wondering about is, why you? Why you? Why you? There are a lot of people who could be giving this information. Are you the best one to give this information? What's your qualifications? What's your background? How much have you studied this? How much do you know about this? Now, this is, I said, where some speakers go overboard. The first thing they do is hit all the audiences over the head with their qualifications. Well, I got a PhD in this, and I've got a doctorate in that, and all these qualifications first, but they don't establish how important the subject is. So you got to do things in order. First, why this subject? Why should I care about the subject? Okay. Why you? All these qualifications. But you can make a mistake there too. Even if you have a PhD and an MBA and all these doctorates and certificates, that's fantastic, great. But it still doesn't answer why you. Why are you talking about this? Why are you the best one for me to understand? And you can think a lot of people with PhDs and doctorates, whatever, and you may not be too impressed by them. What particularly gives you the right to speak about this subject? In other words, what particular skills do you have on this subject in particular as opposed to other things? Now, what some speakers do when trying to answer the why you question, they'll just pull everything out. Oh, I got an award here, and I did an award there, and I helped save somebody in swimming, and I helped save a person over here, and I got a doctorate in philosophy, and I got another doctorate in mechanical engineering, and I got a science medicine. It's like, great, fantastic. We're talking about child rearing. Why you? I mean, I can understand if you're going for mathematics, or you're going for philosophy, sure, you'd be a great person to come to, but why you with child rearing? Where's your child rearing background? So that's the thing to keep in mind when you're answering the why you question. Make sure that all the credentials you have are directly relevant to what you're talking about. And throw out everything that isn't relevant. If you're talking about how to make money, don't bring in your doctor of philosophy. If you're talking about philosophy, don't bring in your mathematics degree, unless you're going to be talking about mathematics. Your credentials that answer the why you should be directly relevant to what you're talking about. And be obvious. People are listening to those credentials and saying, okay, great, but I don't understand why all this stuff has to do with child rearing. Okay, mathematics, philosophy, physics, great, but what about child rearing? That's what you're talking about. Doesn't support it, just leave it out. Not important. But you say, hey, I've got a PhD in child psychology. Okay, you know something about children. I have 5 kids, and I've raised them, and now one's at Harvard, one's at Cornell. Okay, all right, you know something about raising kids. That answers the question, why you? Because once the audience has that, they know, okay, why this? Got it, why this subject? Why you? You're well on your way. You've answered 2/3 of their questions, and they're ready to go. They're saying, okay, I'm going to pay a little bit of attention here. I've got an interesting subject. I've got the right person to talk about it. It's definitely something I want to pay a little bit of attention, focus a little bit on, and be a little bit aware of what's going on. And I'll make up my mind as I go through the presentation, but okay. Okay, you got me so far. But I still got one other question. One really important question. Without answering that question, I ain't doing nothing. So you got them. You got your audience. They now understand why this subject you're talking about is so important. And they agree. Yeah, you're right. This is really an important subject. Let's get going on it. You're right. This is really, really important stuff. And they understand why you. Hey, those credentials, they really go with your topic. They really make sense. I understand exactly what's going on. I get it. All right, fine. But there's one remaining question. Got to answer. And it's a personal question for the audience. Personal question for the people in the audience. And it's the only way you're going to get them to actually do anything, or feel anything, or be anything. If you answer that question. And that last question, that third important question is, why now? Why now? That's the question your audience still hasn't answered. They understand. They're thinking, okay, I get it. Why this? Okay. An important subject. Why you? Oh, you're definitely the right person for it. You know what the heck you're talking about. But why now? What's the urgency? Why can't you let it go for a couple of weeks or months or years or decades? What's so important about it? And that's the thing. That's the challenge with an audience. If you don't make things urgent, important, it has to be done now, it won't get done. Won't get done at all. Well, they'll say, I'll do it in a couple of weeks, or a couple of seconds, or a couple of minutes, or a couple of years, but it won't happen. If you can't create that sense of urgency, action doesn't happen. And maybe you've noticed that. Maybe you come home and you thought, I really ought to get around to cooking, to doing whatever it is. Maybe it's making the bed. I gotta get around to making the bed. But I don't need to do it now. So like, okay, no big deal, all right. Come back from work. All right, how do I make the bed now? Well, not right now. So it keeps on going on, and pretty soon at the end of the day, it's like, time to go to bed. No reason to make it now. There's no urgency about it. It's not important. It's not a big deal. But if I said, my parents are coming over tonight, I'd better have this place looking good. I better make sure my bed's made. Whew! That sense of urgency. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it now. That's what you want. That's what you want, people. People to ask, why now? So when you're talking about do this, they're saying, hey, why do it now? I can do it later, or 2 years, or 10 years, or 15 years. No. Then it doesn't get done. Got to answer that important question of why now? And you do it by talking about consequence. Well, if you don't do it now, horrible things are going to happen. That simple. Just like if you don't learn about the 3 whys of your audience right now, you'll get up in front of your audience, you won't answer those 3 questions, and you won't have a good presentation, you won't have a good speech, things will kind of fall apart, and you won't know why. You talk to people afterwards and you say, how did I do? I said, oh yeah, it was okay, it was all right. Are you going to do what I talked about? Well, I got a few things going on here, you know, maybe. Do I have your vote? Yeah, we'll see. A lot of other people out there too. Do you agree with me? Well, you make a couple good points. Got to answer that question, why now? Has to be the sense of urgency. The sense of urgency. Do it now. Think about those, if you're of a certain age, won't say how old, but you might remember the commercials that were on TV that said, don't forget, order before midnight tonight. It was a big deal about midnight. As a kid growing up, I never understood, what's the big deal about midnight? Who's actually out there figuring out, is it midnight yet? Oh, I don't know if they've ordered yet. Only did that for one reason. Create that sense of urgency. Don't forget, call before midnight tonight. Because that creates that urgency. Got to do it now. So why now? You answer that one, you've got the whole thing. You've got the why this, why you, why now. People are going to say, all right, I'm going to do it. Since there are many things that can distract your audience, it's important to answer the three whys. If you don't answer the three whys, your audience isn't really going to get involved. They're going to probably go to their PDAs or iPhones or iPads or weapons of mass destruction. They're not going to pay attention to you. Answer those questions and they will. And the first question they have is, why this? Why this? Why is this subject so important? Why is it so important that I should be focusing on it, thinking about it, taking my time? Why am I even here listening to you in the first place? Why this? Why this here? If you'd answer it, say, here's why this. This is really important because it's going to change this, it's going to change that, it's going to have an effect on things. Because you'll make sure you get more money, you won't lose as much money. You'll look better, you sound better, you feel better, you have a better life. Whatever it is. Why this? Why this subject? Why should the audience even give a darn at all? Answer that question and you're on your way. But that question leads to another question. And that question is, why you? Your audience is thinking, there's a lot of people who could be giving me this information. A lot of people out there. Why you? What makes you so special? I should be listening to you and not to somebody else. Why should I listen to you? Answering that question is pretty important. Because even if the audience agrees it's an important subject, if they don't think you're the right one to talk about it, they're not going to get involved, they're not going to be interested. So there has to be something about you know about, that you feel about, that you've experienced, that makes you the one to be the right one to deliver this message. Maybe you're directly affected by it. Talk about the importance of safety in tornadoes because I lived through a tornado. Well, that would be a good reason why you. Maybe it's something that you've been studying all your life. It's been my passion all the time to find out more about pet care. As a child, I took care of pets, and I had my own pet business, and then got up and started creating some pet care companies, and now I've learned some great tips and tricks for you to develop your pet care system. Okay, you got some background, you know what's going on. Why you? I get it. If you don't have all that stuff, that's all right. If you have a passion, you have an excitement, you have an interest in it, that's fine. But what's the source of that passion? What's the source of that excitement? Why is it so important to talk about? And why are you the one with the passion, excitement they should be listening to? Why you? And then once you get to the why this, you got that understood, and you get the why you, one more important question to make anything happen for your audience, and that is, why now? Why now? Because if you want your audience to do anything, it has to be done now. Because if they can do it then is by definition always sometime other than now. If you're going to do it in the future, that's always not now. That's how you define the future, right? Not now. So if their answer is always, I'm going to do it not now, it never gets done. And create an urgency, create an excitement, create an interest in doing that. This is why it's so important. You can save the planet. That's a big one these days. That's a big why now. One a lot of speakers are using. A lot of presentations here. You'll save the planet. You'll create a better culture, create a better world. That's why to do it now. Once you can answer those three questions for your audience, why this, why you, why now, you discover that audience really gets involved. They start to listen in. They start to kind of focus on everything you're doing all the way through. From beginning to end, you can see that they're hooked, that they're pulled in, they're leaning forward. Watch for people leaning forward. It's a great sign they're interested in things. And as you talk, you can see their eyes kind of light up as they get it. And afterwards you say, are you going to do what I talked about? And they say, you betcha, because it's important. And I'm glad you told me, because you're the right person to listen to it, and it's a really important subject. When your audience starts saying that, then you know you're getting through to them.